Meeting is called to order. Welcome to the Wednesday, November 6th regular meeting of the Board of Education. Next, that we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Remain standing for a moment of silent meditation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic, and one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We turn it over to Ms. Trombetta to present to us the WSHM Superintendent's Report.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight we have two very special guests with us. We have Renee Elliott and Virginia Merrick. Both staff members were instrumental in helping students performing the Heimlich maneuver on them when they were choking. So we'd like to recognize them tonight, thank them for what they did. I'm sure their families of the students are very excited that their child is okay and thankful for that. But I saw both on, I saw Renee's on video, and she didn't hesitate to act in the cafeteria and took control, reassured the child that they're going to be okay. So again, we'd like to call them both up and thank them for what they did. And everyone give them a round of applause.
Renee, thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Just bringing it to action. We're going to take a picture of you guys. So if you guys say we're going to take a picture.
Thank you, Renee and Virginia, again. The other thing I'd like to talk about tonight is this past Saturday, we had our first ever Sachem 5K event. It's celebrating our 70th year as Sachem, and I cannot say enough about the event. It was amazing from start to finish. I don't know if the mascot race was the cutest or the fact that we had a student, coming in near the end of the fun run and the entire pep squad jumped out and joined her for the last leg of the race. We had our Sachem East and Sachem North JV cheerleaders cheer together, and it was unbelievable to see the unity and see the colors mixed together and not separate. We had a lot of runners in the 5K as well as the fun run, and then we had a lot of activities. It was just an amazing day to celebrate Sachem, to celebrate the students and the families, the whole community. So I just want to thank everybody in the community for all the support. We'll find out, we have a meeting set up for next week to find out how much we raised, but we definitely think we were very successful for our first ever. So thank you again to everybody.
Just something before we start the agenda, something I want to spring up because I know it's been a topic on social media. It's been something that many board members have been questioned about from community members. And we, something that's been presented to the board that was kind of dropped on our table was through New York State's Education Department was the regionalization plan. And I just want to kind of address because I know people have reached out and said, well, how does the board feel about it? How does the district feel about it? I just wanted to speak on behalf of the Sachem Board of Education, Sachem Administrators Association, Teachers Association. I'd like to address our strong opposition to New York State Education Department's recent proposal to develop a regionalization plan. The board, all of us, believes that the regionalization poses significant concerns for our district, impacting both the autonomy and the personalized educational experiences that we've committed to providing for our students. Our district has a long history of supporting all of our students, and regionalization would jeopardize our ability to do so. In addition, the uncertainties of this plan have created certain levels of distrust, especially since it appears to be rushed through with limited communication with the district. There have been no transparency on final obligations for our district and how this will negatively impact or affect key decisions that will deeply impact our children. We stand firm in our dedication to our students by preserving robust programs, unique offerings available at Sachem, and will continue to advocate for policies and support rather than hinder our ability to serve our students, staff, and families effectively to the best of our ability. We thank all the stakeholders for the united support in this effort. Our community is definitely encouraged to write individual letters to David Frank, who's overseeing this regionalization plan, at regcomments, REGCOMMENTS, at nysed.gov, opposing the regionalization plan and preserving what Sachem has proudly built. And so we have joined a letter with the coalition of Board of Education members through Nassau County, as well as several Suffolk school districts that have all signed on to this letter. At last count was probably about 140 school board members that have signed on to their letter. But we also put together a letter ourselves that we're going to be sending up to the State Education Department. I believe the deadline is early December 15th, where community members can actually write letters themselves and oppose this regionalization plan. I know several board members sat through a seminar and a webinar online where it was introduced by the Assistant Commissioner for Public Education, the New York State Education Department. And I'll speak for myself. I went into that meeting thinking I understood what they were asking districts to do, and I left that meeting completely confused. There was a lot of double talk. I think Vinny kind of put it in the text message. They were saying a lot, okay, but none of it made sense. A lot of talking, no information was really provided. The really thing that's really concerning to us is that the State Education Department admitted that this was going to take anywhere from 18 months to 3 years to really develop, and then they were fast-tracked to complete it within 6 months. And this is a problem. We use the analogy, like building the plane while it's in the air. And what I see in that distrust that we have is that it kind of resembles the race to the top money, where they said, look, you have to sign on. You have to sign on. You don't sign on, you're not going to be eligible for any of that money, but you'll have the ability to opt out. And the minute we signed on, and New York State was approved to receive the $700 million, we were told we couldn't opt out. And so to implement the APPR program, we received $18,000 of the $700 million. So it cost us hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to implement that over the 10-year period. I'd say probably even into the millions, because we had to hire staff members to be able to oversee it. And this kind of looks very similar to that what they did to us 10 years ago. And to be honest, APPR is out the window now, right? It's done. New York State's doing away with it. They're not holding us to the same levels. They realize that the tool wasn't as effective as they thought it was going to be, and we're concerned that this regionalization plan is going to be similar. They're going to thrust a whole bunch of mandates on us. We're not going to be able to control our funding. The plan is to have our local BOCES, regional BOCES, to be able to control our funding and shared services, which we're already doing now. So there's a big concern. Certainly, we're encouraging our community to really write New York State Education Department. This letter will go on our website, so if you need the address again, it'll be on our website as early as tomorrow. And really kind of write Mr. Frank, David Frank, and let him know the concerns that we have. Next year, we're already going into this year we're already going into a very, very difficult budget cycle, and to have our ability to be able to to run our programs as we do today certainly is concerning to the Board of Education. So yes. So,
One of the things that was one of my questions was how is it going to get funded? Because they had some big ideas that they expected us to try to implement or bring to them, but they wouldn't answer that question. So it felt like, in addition to it being rushed, they didn't want to commit to any kind of funding for it. So how do you make a plan when you don't know how you're going to pay for it?
the format was typical New York State Education Department. You had to submit questions well in advance. You had the ability to write in the chat box questions, but they didn't answer any of the questions on the fly. So there were a lot of questions. There was a lot of confusion. There were a lot of good points made up about funding, and funding mandates, and they didn't touch any of those questions. So you didn't have the ability to really ask them the hard questions. They had to see the questions well in advance so they could generate answers for them. And it wasn't that open forum that we would have expected. But it was an hour and a half of our lives that I'm not sure that we got any information from, and we're not going to get back. But this is going to be an ongoing thing, and to get behind this, many school boards across Long Island and New York State are really trying to get their communities behind them to ensure that they raise their opposition to such a plan that takes local control away from boards of education. And I think that's ultimately what's trying to happen. So, all right. That's it.
So over at Sachem East, we have started a Thanksgiving food drive, and we're in the process of going to meat farms, and we're asking for donations. We're staying outside. We have volunteers for almost every day this week up to Sunday and a few days next week. And the students are going to be creating boxes from the food that we're getting. All those boxes are being sorted, and they're going to send to over 300 families in East New York schools in our community. And the Senior Adventure Park field trip was a huge success. It was very fun. We would love to do it again. I would like to congratulate Sachem East field hockey team for becoming Suffolk County champions. That was definitely big. Safe Halloween was a big success. There were many children from East feeder schools, and there were many clubs involved to make this happen. The senior kindergarten meetup was very smooth, and I would like to have it happen in the future. It was a great idea. Now, at Saturday at 12, East football, we playing William Floyd for the playoffs, and girls field hockey at 3 p.m. on Sunday, we'll be playing at Massapequa. So good luck to both teams.
Thank you, Michael. What's your goal for the boxes for Thanksgiving?
So we have a quota of about 300 boxes, and each box is about $40, and there's like a checkoff list, and each one is a whole prepared Thanksgiving dinner to all these families in need.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So we also kicked off our food drive at North this week. On Monday, we held an assembly second period where we had each classroom send down 2 kids to represent the classroom to get a general information assembly from our student government advisors to kind of give a general gist of how the food drive works, because we want this year to be especially great and then continue that trend in years in the future. We kind of just told all the students about what the purpose and what our goal is on how we feed nearly 1,000 families every year. And we distributed menus and box signups for all the students to bring back to all of their classrooms throughout the day. Our system is each box represents a family package that we distribute to each of the families that we have like on our donation lists throughout the Sachem community. We work very closely with a club in North called the Dirty Dozen, who they do a very good job with distributing the boxes to families around the Sachem community. Um, so that was a great kickoff on Monday, and this week we are looking to distribute our boxes to the classrooms. We have sent out spreadsheets to all the teachers to mention how many boxes they want per classroom, and we are also working with our elementary and middle school, like feeder schools, to get boxes in classrooms there for younger students to help contribute to it. Safe Halloween also happened. Day before Halloween, it was great. I unfortunately was not able to be there the night of, but a few of the fellow student government officers were there, and they all had the same message that it was outstanding. We had a lot of students all roaming through the hallways, just having a great time, and it was a great way for them to have a safe, fun experience for Halloween. Football playoffs for Sachem start this Friday, 6 o'clock at Connect Lot. We were lucky to make the playoffs at the end of this year. From a rougher start to the beginning of the season, the boys on the team really pulled through, and I think that the spirit of the school is on the incline towards these playoffs, and the student sections at the games were getting better and better. So I think that the combination of the drive from the players and the students, like in spirit, was a big help. So I think that these games are going to be great, a really fun time for the students. Unfortunately, yesterday the boys volleyball team lost in the county championship to Ward Melville. I was at the game myself, and although there was a loss, the good note of it is that the spirit from all the students there was very good. We had a very large student section there representing student pride, so I thought that was very nice to see. One last thing I wanted to mention is Sachem from both North and East has a few cross-country runners who are going to be continuing representing Sachem in the postseason.
Thank you. Brings us to approval of minutes and a motion to approve the minutes from October 23rd, the regular meeting. Stephanie, second by Mike Cerny. Questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Ask any visitors tonight? Visitors? Item 3 is business items. We have consent agenda A through F. Need a motion, please? Mike Cerny, second. Sabrina Pickwitz. Questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Item 4, we have personal consent agenda for teachers. Any motion, please? Okay, Matthew Bauman, second Stephanie. Take questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Cable Eden. We have some recognitions tonight.
So unable to join us this evening are two of our teacher assistants, Sandra Braun and Karen Bacigalupa, who were just awarded tenure as teacher assistants here at Waverly and East. We'd like to congratulate them on all of their hard work and dedication.
Right there. Do you have that from Mark? Oh, no, we have. Okay, we have item 5. We have personal consent agenda A through G for support staff. A motion, please. Matthew Diamond, second by Sabrina Pickwitz. Questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried.
Mr. Scavo, we just have a few things to recognize this evening. On tonight's agenda, the board did approve the upcoming retirement of Mr. Nick Malerba. He is one of our custodians over at Waverly. He's been with us for many, many years, and he is a resident within the community. And he is an incredibly just a great person. You come into the building at the building at High School North. He's been with us for many, many years, and we congratulate him on his retirement. And also a true asset to the district in the business offices, previously in the guidance office and curriculum, is Ms. Joanne Spencer, who is a senior office assistant currently working for the business officials office, Ms. Sarakis. She will absolutely be sorely missed as she retires, and we congratulate her on her upcoming retirement. Also in celebration today and recognition, we do have Miss Alyssa Hull, who's in the audience today. Ms. Hull has been working for us as an office assistant in the business department, and previous to that, she was in our child care office. And she has just been promoted due to the retirement of our school purchasing agent in the upcoming months to our district office purchasing agent. Congratulations on your promotion.
Congratulations, Alyssa. I know you're out there. You just waved. Congratulations. Item 6 is we have personnel agenda item for administration. Motion, please, Stephanie. Second, Mike Isernia. Questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay. Item 7, we have contracts. We have a consent agenda A through F. Any motion, please? Megan Reynolds, second. Mike Isernia. Questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Item 8 brings us, we have a consent agenda for donations. Item 8, motion, please. Mike Isernia, second by Stephanie. Questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. We get a letter out to the, I don't know how we're going to get the one out for the anonymous donation to run a K9 Companion Club. Certainly, we're very thankful for that. Item 9, Committee on Special Education. We have consent agenda A through Z. Matthew Diamond, second by Alex Piccirillo. Questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Item 10, monthly reports. Any monthly reports from committees? I know we're going to talk about a little bit about some of the items on the for budget advisory. Secretary, Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Rob. Yeah, we can talk about that. So one of the things we need to do is come to an agreement on the charges for the Budget Advisory Committee. We'll set up a meeting for next week, but I think we want to focus on revenue opportunities. So I sent everybody an email, and we can go through some of those, Rob. I know some of them are sort of maybe longer-term planning. We can have a conversation, but I think the group is eager to jump in and figure out how they can come up with ideas to help. So some of the things that they talked about were, and we just talked about this in a previous meeting, what do we charge for renting out our facilities and grounds? So that's one that they want to explore a little bit. I think when we look at what we're charging, and I think compared to some of the other districts, there's some significant fees that they're charging. So perhaps it's something that we should give to them and let them come back and make some recommendations based on what's happening in the surrounding communities.
So everybody okay with that? Renting facilities and grounds? And they would present back to the board recommendations and I guess revenue.
Yeah, and then just tagging on to that, it's can we start looking and maybe proactively going to dance companies, theater companies to rent out our facilities? Right? I think we've got some great facilities. HME's just put in a whole new sound system. Can we leverage that and rent that out? And I know some of the dance companies usually rent schools for the weekend. And there could be significant dollars coming to us that we can use to fund clubs. So the goal there would be let's look at the rates, but also perhaps identify outside companies that can come in and rent our facilities.
If we get some history on that, I know that we had some great success, also not such great success. And sometimes conditions, the condition of the auditorium and how it was left. So certainly we could have a discussion about that and see whether or not you provide us with some feedback on that. And how do you probably the principal at the time but yeah, I mean it's
I think anything we do, we'd have to have obviously contracts in place that are ironclad, right? They'd have to pay for custodial services and security, so it shouldn't cost us anything. Right now, our rates are extremely cheap, $3 an hour. I think it's costing us more money to process the paperwork, right? So that's something I think that we should look at. Yes.
I know that we've had this discussion 100 times, but in the last 3 days, we've hosted the Suffolk Zone Conference on Tuesday, where every school district in Suffolk County came, brought their phys ed teachers and administrators. We hosted it at no charge. On Sunday, we hosted the Suffolk County Cheerleading Championships, which was great, and I attended and supported the girls, and it was great, but we got nothing from it. So before we go out there again and beat up our community members and talk about raising how much we are charging to use our facilities, again, I'm going to bring this up. Outside groups should not be coming in for free when we're looking to raise the costs on in-house groups. I can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah, so I think the goal of
It's
this
like the cell phone thing. I'm just not going to let it go.
So I think the goal of this is to look at outside companies to pay market rates, right? So obviously we have to have a conversation as a board on what the rates are for not-for-profits, our community groups. That I think is still an open switch for this board. This is really geared at outside agencies like a dance company, somebody, right?
The meeting we had when you were away,
Yeah.
that was the main thing they wanted to look at was outside revenue, not in-house, not upcharging the $3, but looking for additional revenue from other companies because apparently other school districts make a lot,
Thousands for a
a
weekend.
lot,
Yeah.
tens of thousands for a weekend. And if that's something we could do, and some of the members brought up districts they work in, and they were giving us some stats. It was impressive. So I think I don't think messing with the $3 and the little people, the
No,
little
that's an open
organizations,
switch and we still have to
but
come to terms
looking
on
for
that.
bigger
Yeah.
money so that it's worth our time, and then we're making something on it.
Again, this board, and there's been comments that, hey, these buildings belong to the community, and rightfully so. But every one of our government buildings belongs to we the people. We just can't use them at will, right? So we've got to put some more parameters around charging for even our in-house groups, right? $3 doesn't cut it. So, my opinion. I'm looking at our budget
Yeah.
person, so.
Yeah, that's really,
So all they're going to do is look into what other school districts are doing
Yeah, and present options,
and
right?
present
Yeah.
options. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
A couple other things. Let me just keep going, right? So this could be short-term or long-term, but it's sort of in the, renting out facilities. We've got Tamarack, which we've got about 6 acres of land that doesn't get used. Is there an opportunity to go to some of the sports leagues and open that up and rent that field out, right? It backs up to the PAL facility. So is there an opportunity to bring them into any more fields? The other thing is, do we sell that land, right? So again, that's more of capital, raising capital one-time hits, but if you sell it to a developer, can they put houses on? So these are all sort of the big rock issues that we probably should talk about. But this is coming up with the community, right? They're looking at that and saying, we have an asset there. Can we utilize it and raise revenue from it? Okay. So, see if there's questions, comments, concerns.
yeah, questions about Tamarack facilities? My other concern is, like I said, revenue sources versus revenue streams. Understand that, you said it was 6 acres.
That's the number that's been tossed around. So I don't know, but I think it's about 4 to 6 acres. Yeah.
Yeah, so
I mean, if you see Tamarack,
Yeah,
Tamarack,
sure.
I mean, the field is huge, and the school doesn't use 3/4 of it. Right?
so the other thing with selling, to close the budget gap is that once it's gone,
It's gone.
forever.
Yep.
So I think I saw a statistic a couple of years ago that I think we spent probably close to $1 million by 12 o'clock, p.m. Halfway through the morning, we've already spent it. So if we sell that property for, $2 million, it's gone for one day. It's literally operating expenses for one day. And it's gone forever. So I like the idea of revenue streams more than in one shots.
Yeah, and if you sold it to a developer that we would get.
Yeah.
Mike, you brought this up during Union Avenue discussions, right? Put houses on there. Now you've got a perpetual revenue stream of taxes. And if you put 10, 20 houses on there at 10 to 12,000 a year in taxes, there's some significant revenue streams, right? So,
Do we allow Cal to use the car?
We,
Yeah. We did years ago.
if the need is there.
When my
Yeah.
son was playing
Yeah.
Cal, we used that field for practice. Right, so we don't currently.
So again, we should, if we want to task them at looking at that and maybe going to PAL, and a longer term, maybe there's an option to put that on the market and subdivide it. And again, all of the sort of the big rock issues that we have to talk about, right? Bold ideas, because we're facing an $18 million plus expense deficit issue.
Could they get the revenue info that was from Grundy, the area behind Grundy, so that the advisory committees could maybe either just take that off the discussion? Like if they're going to get more revenue from renting it compared to the tax revenue of selling it, would we have that?
So you're
info?
talking about Grundy, the strip of land behind
Yeah,
Grundy.
yeah, like to
That
compare.
we as the facilities committee 11 years ago suggested to the district to sell. They finally sold it. My understanding was about $1 million, but now we've got about 8 houses on that piece of property that generate recurring revenue. So that's sort of the idea, right?
Right. So, but would it be more a better economic decision to rent rather than sell? I would
who
hate
knows?
to get rid of
Right.
our property, as it is. We have a lot, but
The concept of Grundy 11 years ago was brought up by Mike Timo. I remember when he presented it at the board meeting. And the concern that we had with Grundy Avenue is that it was a haven for drug paraphernalia. People going into the woods, they were shooting up heroin, they were leaving hypodermic needles back, and then kids were going into the woods. And it was posing an imminent health problem for our kids. So I guess the mechanism to take away that piece of property from illegal activity was to actually take it, sell it, and and turn it into usable space rather than a dumping ground for medical supplies and drug paraphernalia. But I'm not so sure that if that was the situation there, that that would have came up. I know Mike Zimmer was very big on. He lived in that area. It was part of the Holbrook Fire Department district, and they were constantly going in and out of there and dealing with sharp needles and things like that. So yeah, it did create revenue, and it certainly did create tax revenue for the district. So it's something we can look at and present back to the board.
So I want to clarify, what would the budget advisory do with that conversation? Like, that sounds more of
Let's-
knowing from the district, what's the history, what happened with PAL, maybe the fields are not the best for, sports that the kids might get, whatever it is, maybe that they're not using it anymore for a reason.
Yeah, and
Have
maybe
we
this
ever
isn't,
looked into selling it? Is there a reason? Was there opposition? So a lot of those things I think would come up in the history from district office. I'm curious as to what budget advisory, what they would be doing in that.
yeah, so this could be budget advisory, or it could be, if somebody knows PAL, do you want to rent the facility? It could be as simple as that, right? It's just a matter of, we've got 4 to 6 acres sitting there unused. And, I'm
So this was
I'm a
just a
Tamarack
suggestion
first
that
grader. I go
came
back
from it.
50 years, right? With Tamarack,
Okay,
we've never used that field, right? It
right.
just sits there, so.
Well, curious as to why, like Matthew said, his son used to play on it. Why aren't they utilizing it?
Yeah,
I think
SIAC
we use it as
SIAC
an
So this was
overflow.
just a topic that
Yeah,
came
yeah.
from the people. It's not.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
it was an overflow. When,
Yeah,
when
SIAC uses it too, because when I coached SIAC, we used to use it, girls softball, right? We used to use it, but again, it's a huge piece of property, and should we be doing something with it, right? So,
Alex, you had a question?
Yeah, just if you're going to sell it and you're talking about putting development on it, you probably should reach out to the town of Islip to see what it's zoned and are they willing to even change the zone in that area before we even. That may not even be an option. I don't know what it is, but they have to be on board for it.
so maybe that's something that administration does for us, right?
And that should be town of Islip.
Third on the list was the radio station. We've got a tremendous asset, the radio station, that costs us money though. I think it costs us about $130,000 plus a year to run. That should be at a minimum self-funding. So can we, again, do we put it up for sale? Do we lease the airwaves, or do we get creative? Rob and I had a conversation. I think that was something that was kicked around the board many years ago. Where do we approach record companies and have the station play music, and do we get donations from the artists? So creative things like that probably need to be explored. But again, I'd look to the administration to say, do we even explore the sale of this asset or leasing the airwaves to somebody? And that could be a recurring revenue stream, right? So again,
Alex, you go first, Alex.
So just quickly, so I just worked on 2 campaigns. We spent the combined total money within the 2, not just our side, but both sides, $18 million. Whether it was TV, whether it was YouTube ads, social media, radio. Maybe we're just not going out there to look for where the money is. I would be very reluctant to look to sell an asset like that. That once you let it go, it's gone. There is plenty of money. It's just putting the right person in there to get out, to help us look for who wants to advertise and do that, because we just, there was more money spent against us and we won both of them, but it's out there. It's out there. That guy spent $10 million against our guys.
I know
It's out
we can't use anything below 92. We can't use for advertising, okay, for commercial purposes. We're 91.9. But once again, if we can get creative, okay, and we can accept donations, purposes of airing things and opening it up. I know we talked about possibly maybe even subletting it to a local university so they could run a radio station. I know that there's digital dials within 91, so there's 91.9 and there's 91.91 and whatever it works. I know that years ago, Congressman Bishop came to us and was advocating to sell it to LIU, Southampton. And the board took a stance that, these things don't come around all the time. Once we get rid of it, it's gone forever. And we use it right now for purposes of, journalism and radio, broadcasting. Kids are making careers out of Vic Canal is a perfect example. He was one of those students that took radio broadcasting and then ended up becoming a radio station mogul. Several of them. To this day, he's still on several of them. So he got it started teaching. I hate to take that away from the kids. So I would be in favor of looking at creating a revenue source and maybe looking at how we can utilize the station better to tap into different funds. So The goal is if we can make it self-sufficient, that's $130,000 or $150,000 better to the district.
So let's skip a few. Some of these we'll probably have to talk about in exec session because it's around confidential data. I think everything else on the list we probably need to have a conversation about first. So yeah, those are just a few of the revenue producing ideas that the committee has kicked around.
Clarified some of the things that are on the list. Really, we have to get some information from our legal counsel.
Yep.
So
Yep.
going into exec session would be there's a contract associated with this one. What would it entail?
And it's personnel related. as well,
Personnel
so we've got-
related as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So by next meeting, I mean even earlier.
Yeah, well, I'm going to reach out to the committee. Stephanie, I'll reach out tonight or tomorrow, send an email, try to get a meeting, Michelle, next week with the committee, and then we'll run this past them and see where we go. Okay?
And December, January is going to be on us real quick. That's going to
Very
be in
quick.
the meat of the budget cycle. So, Stephanie?
For the legislative committee, we have two charges. One is about doing a rally and getting a bus and all that stuff, but we don't have what we're, other than funding. Do I wait to see what the budget advisory committee comes up with? Like, when do I start having meetings around the rally? Because I know that they were connecting with.
So we're working with the SCTA on that, and they are working with NICET, their team up there. But we also have to communicate with our elected officials to find out when they're going to be there. For us to go up there without them would be pointless. So there's a couple moving pieces right now. So as soon as we have days, we'll certainly share that with you.
So I'll just hold for now.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Ms. Esterman?
Vinny, if you could, maybe another thing I'd like the budget advisory committee to look into is a transportation line. If we could look at that transportation line and see what on that line we can get rid of without needing a proposition from the voters, how much that would be. That's a pretty big line by itself. I think it's about almost $20 million. So part of that's going to be busing that we provide that we don't need to provide or we don't require to provide by law. What would that be in a savings? I agree. We need to think very big. This is not going to be major restructuring type things, or reallocating kids amongst schools, maybe renting other schools. The sale of something is nice, but as Rob said, that it's if you sell it to either a commercial entity or something that's going to put out a tax rolls, you will start to generate money. But in the short term, you're probably better off renting it to start that revenue stream right off the bat. We should be looking at streams. We don't. I know people talk out in the community about 245 Union Avenue, but still, I guess we should talk about the status of that because everybody still thinks that we squandered the money that we haven't actually gotten. But you don't have a building to sell every year, right? And as Brent said, you're not gonna. You need to find ways to fund your ongoing operations without these sales of things that you don't have of every year, right? So I'd like to know how much of that $18 or $20 million transportation line can be shed without the need to go to the public for proposition.
Because my understanding is like we're providing more transportation today than we're legally responsible, obligated to do.
Well, I mean,
So
you
that's
got
really
just
the delta, right?
after school activity buses, right?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of stuff that, again, listen, I've said it before. I'll say it again. Fundamentally, we're a K through 12 educational institution. We need to do everything we can to minimize the impact on that educational portion, right? So,
I think it's something where the legislative and the budget advisory committee work closely on that. Yet right now, I think the law requires us to provide transportation for every student that's enrolled in the district. And if we have just under 12,000 enrolled, and only 7,000 are using buses, and the other, 4,000 or 5,000 that are being dropped off by family members, we're still obligated to provide transportation for 12,000. So a lot of our buses sometimes could end up, being empty.
Our obligation is based on the mileage. We have mileage limitations, and anybody that falls within the mileage limitations, we have to provide a bus. Somebody who lives beyond the mileage
But I'm talking
limitations.
about whether they use it or not. So if only 8,000 people, 8,000 children are using our buses, we still provide transportation for 12,000. And that's a lot of extra runs. When I say the legislative committees, maybe, putting some type of, plan together and maybe reach out to the state, see if something like that can be changed, to help, amend the law, to reduce the burden on school districts.
Just a quick question for the legislative committee, um, and maybe it's the board members. Right now that the election's over, should we look to maybe schedule some time with our local elected officials, like the state senate and assembly, and maybe just talk? Because I know, Stephanie, one of the things we want to do is, we can lobby them, but I think if we can have a collaborative conversation and spell things out, what we're looking to do, I think
Before the
foster
trip
that partnership right before the budget comes on. Right, so maybe that's something that maybe, Patty, that's something that administration does with.
So I've
board
met
members,
with
right?
about 90% of our local ones already, one-on-one.
Perfect. Yep. Good. Okay.
You're going to suggest meet with the legislative committee, maybe as a round table.
Possibly.
just
I
to
don't want to
discuss.
overstep what Patty's doing, but yeah, if there's an opportunity with the legislative committee, perhaps.
Who would set that up?
You.
Me, and I would call the elected officials, and
Yeah.
I don't want to step on toes or
Yeah.
anything like that, so.
And
we
maybe
didn't pick one
the
yet.
chair, maybe the
Yeah.
chairperson does it, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Mr. Scavino?
Yes.
Just in response to Mr. Isernia, we're starting the departmental budget meetings tomorrow. We have 3 scheduled. And for the transportation meeting, we did ask that they break out their costs for the 25-26 school year for home to school, which is required, and then all clubs, field trips, athletics, after school activities on separate line items so that we have the required costs versus the wish list costs. So we are doing that starting tomorrow.
Any other updates on the committees? So I guess by our next meeting, we should have direction and charges from the board.
So I'm gonna have a meeting to pick our chair people, just so that they're ready to take the charges that we're gonna give them, which could be more information about meeting with the elected officials. That roundtable, do you want it sooner than later, or do you want it?
Probably sooner, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Because if the rally does happen, we're able to get buses to get up to Albany, with large groups. We would want to have that discussion with them prior as to the concerns we have as a district. Unfunded mandates, transportation, amending, certain possible amendments that they could maybe bring to the floor. I would say earlier than soon. Any other updates, committees? Okay. Closing public comment. Announcing no visitors. Old business. I'm going to turn it over to Patty. If you could just, I know that these are things that are just on the list for us to discuss.
Sure,
We're gonna
these are-
stay there until we discuss them, but I don't think we're prepared to discuss these in detail.
Well, we can touch base on the employee attendance update. Mrs. Sarakis can touch base on that.
So we have scheduled a meeting with 2 of our bargaining units for November 19th to start the discussion on what needs to change with the reporting of attendance. Coming in and making a check mark versus a signature, or an automated system, whether it be something like ASOP or timepiece or something like that. So we are setting up, 2 of the meetings are scheduled already, and going to reach out to some of our smaller bargaining units tomorrow and see when we can sit down with them. As far as non-aligned individuals, we can move forward. It's just a matter of what system are we going to use. So I was speaking with Ms. Eden just earlier before we came down, just to get a little bit of an understanding of what goes into ASOP and how that system is used on the instructional side, and if that would be something that we could use for the non-instructional staff versus a timepiece type of time clock where you would have a card that you would swipe and just press that you're in, and then you swipe at the end of your shift when you're going to go. So we're working on it.
And then the recognition day for trade students, I'm working with Mr. Miller, who's working with the 2 guidance counselors at the high school. We're looking to do something in the spring, possibly May, for students that have completed their certification. So it's a 2-year program for most of the trades. And if they've completed the 2 years successfully and they or have jobs lined up with companies outside, we'll be doing, similar to athletic signing day, we'll be doing a trade school signing day. So that'll be sometime in May. And then the Special Ed Parent Advisory Committee, we're not ready to discuss that tonight.
We just
That'll
received
stay on.
information.
That was my fault. I didn't realize it was in my drafts, so I sent it just, oh my God, it was in the drafts, and I sent it. Do you want more information? I didn't want to flood everybody with, there's several other, districts that do it, but I didn't want to.
Yeah, I think what you said is probably sufficient for us to
Okay.
kind of mull over and see what the function of the committee would be
Okay.
and how it differs from that.
And again, I
period.
apologize. I was wondering why no one answered, and then I'm like, oh my God, it's in the draft. So that's why it said good evening, and it was in the morning. So my apologies.
So we're going to keep that on old business for future conversation, discussion. Board discussion items. We don't have any tonight listed. Any future items in the Board of Education that they'd like to discuss? No? Okay. Brings us to exec session. At this particular time, I need a motion to go into exec session to discuss a grievance made known to the board, as well as Union Avenue update, battery plant litigation update, a student appeal discussion, as well as possible litigation pertaining to the retaining wall at East that collapsed as a result of the agreement. Any motion, Stephanie? Second. Okay, sir, any questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Have a good evening, everyone.